time, man. Hey, the talk is over. Now they got to deal with it.
Okay, you can go ahead and write it down and put it in there.
The Arizona Cardinals select.
Now everyone knows.
An exciting first round of the 2022 NFL Draft for the Arizona Cardinals Thursday night, and they didn't even make a pick. The Cardinals made a trade with the Baltimore Ravens for wide receiver Marquis Brown and a third-round pick in exchange for their first-round pick. Welcome into Cardinals Draft Central, presented by SeatGeek and your local Arizona Ford dealers. Alongside Cardinals insider Craig Grialou, I'm Dani Sureck. We're so glad you're joining us while watching the draft on NFL Network as we get you set ahead of the Cardinals' first pick of the night, number 55 overall. Craig, have you had a chance to catch your breath, let your heart rate come down a bit after the exciting night of round one of the draft last night for the Cardinals?
It's going to be a little bit difficult and, dare I say, maybe impossible to kind of top what happened on Thursday, but I'm looking forward now to not just 2 picks here on day 2, but 3 picks with that extra third-round selection with that acquisition of Hollywood Brown. But, yeah, maybe we actually get to hear the commissioner speak talking about the Arizona Cardinals around the clock.
I'd say the chances are high for us to hear Roger Goodell announce a pick for the Arizona Cardinals. Actually, it's going to be Aeneas Williams for the Arizona Cardinals. Let's take a quick look at those picks, the updated picks for the Arizona Cardinals. So they've got number 55 overall, their pick in the second round. Then later on in round 3 tonight, 87, as well as the 100th overall pick that they acquired from the Ravens. How are the Cardinals set up for success to find game changers on day 2, Craig?
I think when you look at day 2 draft picks, you hope that they are able to contribute right away. Maybe not a starter, but certainly a rotation player that you can see week 1 on Sunday and be active. So we can get to the needs a little bit later, but you certainly like where this draft has started so far because, yeah, no first round pick, but I think getting Marquis Brown is a nice consolation prize.
And we've got the perfect person to talk to us about the newest Arizona Cardinal. We've got wide receivers coach Shawn Jefferson joining us now. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
This team needed a wide receiver. That was no secret after losing Christian Kirk to free agency.
Right.
However, you're not going to have to deal with the development of a rookie. You now get a 4th-year veteran who's coming off a 1,000 receiving yard season. What was your reaction when you found out that this trade was going down and you were going to get Hollywood Brown in your room?
Well, my first reaction was I think I got a rabbit's foot stuck in my pocket. That was my first thought, you know what I'm saying? But second, when it all went down and I finally had a chance to breathe, I'm like, this is crazy. I just could not believe that we pulled it off, and much credit goes to our GM and our head coach and those guys for pulling this off. We got a proven veteran, a guy that's played in games, so he's game ready. He is one of the premier deep threats in the league. And he's going to fit just so well in the offense. I just can't wait to get him out on the field. It's just like another new toy that I have. I just can't just mess him up. I'm going to stay out of his way and just let him do his thing. He brings so much explosive ability to our offense. It's going to be exciting.
How did you find out about the trade?
Well, you know, some things happened. I can't say some things happened. Then somebody said this, somebody said that, and all of a sudden, like, Hollywood. I'm like, what? Hollywood? I'm like, oh my gosh, you know what I'm saying? And then I had a great conversation when he landed here last night. The kid he's ready to go. I'm ready for him to get going. He's a former teammate of Kyler, so the connection is there. So I don't think the transition period will be long at all for him. I think these guys will be able to pick up right from where they left off in college. He just got to learn the verbiage of what we do. And I'm so excited to have another explosive guy to work with.
You mentioned fit within this offense. Go a little bit deeper into that as far as how you see him lining up. We've heard anywhere, inside, outside, left, right.
Yeah.
He is that versatile of a wide receiver?
He is. Whenever you get a chance to get a guy like this, you know, and with the speed and the athleticism they have, you know, there's no change on this guy. Well, I'll put him in the backfield if I have to. Move him out of the backfield because, you know, as he get going, you know, people going to want to double him and stuff like that. And so we're going to move him around everywhere. You know what I'm saying? When you get a guy like this, it's incumbent upon us to put him in the best position where he can make plays. And so look forward to seeing him line up across the board on offense. And we're going to let him go. We're going to let him go. And as you know, we've got the Super Bowl coming here this year. And with this piece, I think he may be the piece to get us over the hump.
This is one of many explosive pieces in your room. DeAndre Hopkins, A.J. Green, Rondale Moore.
Yeah.
Is the sky the limit for your group?
It is. The sky's the limit. And like I told you guys before, I just got to be careful not to mess them up. I just got to give them the game day and just let them play. But I'm excited about all those guys, man. We have a really talented group, and I'm just looking forward to going to work with them and just see how this whole thing's going to gel. And the good thing about this group, man, they're so unselfish. You know what I'm saying? They really they cheer for one another. They don't get mixed up in who's getting the most credit. They just want to win. That's the thing that I like about my group. And Cliff, head coach, has done a great job along with our GM and our owner getting these guys here. So Bird City, get ready. It's going to be exciting this year. And we got some horns over there in LA. We got to cut off this year, so we're ready for it.
The ability to play both inside and outside, leading into the draft, the conversation was, okay, outside wide receiver, a big target, 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". But his ability, talking about Marquise Brown, to play inside and outside, are we seeing a change as far as that outside wide receiver doesn't have to be a big target for a quarterback? Yeah,
he doesn't. And you said with Devontae Adams and stuff like that, and I think, the bottom line, at the receiver position, it's a footwork game. And you couple that along with speed, you know what I'm saying? Like, speed is not always a given, it's a luxury. And this guy has it, you know what I'm saying? But not only that, he has the foot quickness and the lateral agility to evade, defenders at line of scrimmage, to get deep. And he's proven this. I went back last night and watched some more film of him, and I was just amazed. I was like, oh my gosh, he's even better than what I thought, you know what I'm saying? So again, I just can't wait till he gets here. He told me last night that he's ready to get here and get started. And so I'm ready as well. So, and again, I just want to thank our head coach and our GM and our owner for pulling this off. And like I say, it's going to be an exciting season, and I'm ready for it.
Well, congratulations on the new piece in your room. I have no doubt that you will not mess him up, like you've been saying. So congratulations. Thank you so much for joining us here on Cardinals Draft Central. Best of luck throughout the weekend, throughout the rest of the draft, and exciting stuff for you next week when you get a chance to work with your new wide receiver.
Good. I thank you guys for having me. Let's go, Bird City.
Let's go, Bird City. Yeah. Bird City, let's take a quick look at your newest Arizona Cardinal when he was arriving to the facility Friday morning.
I'm just excited to be here, meet everyone, get everything going. So I'll just see it again. What's up, boss? How you doing?
Man, welcome aboard.
Marquise Brown here. I'm excited to be in the building, excited to be in Arizona. Looking forward to seeing you guys. Major love to everyone who showed love to me. See you soon.
Whatever you guys comfortable with. I mean, you can call me Hollywood, you can call me Marquise, whatever you guys want.
Not a rookie coming in like normally the day after the first round of the draft. A veteran wide receiver in Hollywood Brown, still exciting nonetheless. You know who else was excited? Pretty much every Arizona Cardinal. Everyone was taking to social media to tweet their excitement. Of course, the big name being quarterback Kyler Murray, Hollywood Brown's teammate at University of Oklahoma.
I think the first player reaction had to have been K1. Whether he knew or didn't, we were told earlier that Hollywood Brown had to kind of keep things very close to the vest, if you will, but Kyler Murray certainly very, very happy, and a number of other players happy as well.
That's
J.J.
right.
Watt, Buda Baker. It's across the board, not only offensive players, but defense as well.
That's right, and Hollywood Brown and Kyler Murray are actually training together in Dallas. And what's interesting is when we heard from general manager Steve Keim Thursday night after the trade was official, he was saying back in 2019 when the Cardinals took Kyler Murray, #1 overall pick, they were actually interested in trading back up in the first round to get Hollywood Brown. So the fact that he's now an Arizona Cardinal, things are just coming full circle now for him.
Didn't happen in 2019, but 2022, hey, you got now a more seasoned wide receiver. And we talked about it on Thursday. It's the known versus the unknown. You don't know about those 6 wide receivers that were selected in the first 18 picks. You do know about a Marquise Brown, who's done it now for each of the past 3 seasons, has consistently gotten better in each of those seasons, and coming off his first 1,000-yard receiving season. And then that chemistry between quarterback and wide receiver. Yes, first year in the offensive system, but that chemistry going back to when they were on the scout team at Oklahoma in 2017. Already a newcomer in that room, but he might have a leg up on everyone else in that wide receivers room. with respect to the quarterback.
He did say that. In fact, he said that in a one-on-one exclusive interview when I got to sit down with Hollywood Brown earlier today, and we will share that later on in the show. The Kansas City Chiefs have made their pick at pick 54, so the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock, so we will make sure to announce that pick as soon as it's in. Make sure you're watching with us on NFL Network. Yes, we will have that one-on-one with Hollywood Brown later on, and he mentioned having the leg up with that chemistry, which is huge when you're the new wide receiver and you already have that going on with your quarterback.
It's paramount to have that because you want to make sure you have that communication right now as far as in the middle of the regular season, so you don't have those miscommunications, but you have that chemistry going back to their days in college, and then you just build upon that, and you hope it's not just Marquise Brown, but it's everyone in that wide receivers room. Year 2 in the system, or in the case of DeAndre Hopkins going into year 3, it should be a lot smoother between quarterback and pass catcher than we saw, especially late in the season.
The Arizona Cardinals pick is in, pick 55, their first pick in day 2, their first in the second round. Make sure you're watching on NFL Network with us. No one else better than former Cardinals defensive back Aeneas Williams to make the announcement of this pick. He is up at the podium right now, so we're watching with you guys. We're going to wait for him to make the announcement, and we will make sure you guys know who your newest Arizona Cardinal is in just a few moments. Any gut on what this might be?
I would think it would have to be defense, just because of what the team is looking for as far as needs. But how about this? A little bit of a curveball, Dani. It's not defense. It's the other side of the ball.
It's tight end Trey McBride out of Colorado State. That is a little shocking if you were thinking it was going to be defense when we've talked about the needs so far. Colorado State tight ends, so he'll be joining the room with Zach Ertz and Max Williams, who both signed new deals this offseason. So now you've got your top 3 tight ends right there for the Cardinals offense. Another piece for quarterback Kyler Murray.
And for head coach Cliff Kingsbury, but it might have come down to just a player that was too high on their draft board. And we always hear general manager Steve Keim say, stick to your board. And you're looking at the number 1 tight end in the college last year, won the John Mackey Award, but a first-team AP All-American, a first-team All-Mountain West selection, set school records in both receptions and receiving yards last season. So another big target. We just got through talking with Coach Shawn Jefferson about, the ability to play inside and outside, but not necessarily needing that big target on the outside. Well, you got McBride, 6'4", 246. So that is a big target at the tight end position to pair along with the Zach Ertz and hopefully a healthy Max Williams.
Here is a live look in the Cardinals draft room. You can see owner Michael Bidwell, general manager Steve Keim, head coach Cliff Kingsbury, along with their front office staff, the scouting department, some coaches. Very exciting. They're making young players' dreams come true. Very exciting. There he is. He's celebrating. You can see some clips in the background there in the draft room have his highlights. Very exciting. When you add Trey McBride to this receiving core, we talked about it a little bit with Shawn Jefferson earlier on in the show. DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, Zach Ertz, Rondale Moore, Hollywood Brown. How explosive can this offense be?
Well, don't forget in free agency, one of the new faces that this team added was a tight end, Steven Anderson. A little bit taller as far as maybe not as bulky of a tight end threat, but now you look at McBride becomes the 8th tight end on this roster. Marquise Brown became the 8th wide receiver on this roster. Obviously, you're not going to keep them all once the regular season hits, but certainly, obviously, through the first day and a half, if you will, one pick wasn't a pick, it was an acquisition, and in this draft pick, certainly a heavy emphasis on offense and putting as many weapons around Kyler Murray as possible.
And that's a little bit of the change. The previous 2 drafts, the first round picks have been defense, linebackers Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins. And you're right, it is important to not just think about Kyler Murray when taking offensive picks, but head coach Cliff Kingsbury, offensive-minded head coach, the play caller. While, of course, he cares about every position, defense, special teams included, you have to think he's probably pretty happy that they got 2 offensive players early on in the draft now.
And if you know Coach Kingsbury, he is certainly a film junkie and certainly probably dialing up plays already to figure out, all right, how many tight ends can I get on the field? And then the fact that it's, again, you're looking at Zach Ertz, who has been under contract now for the next 3 seasons, including this year, plus now a young tight end to build forward. does that say something about what this offense might look like? We always talk about Kingsbury and the spread offense, 4 or 5 wide, but now you've got Zach Ertz, who you retained in free agency, and you add a tight end in the second round. Obviously, if you're going to spread it out, you might see an extra tight end on the field, but split as a wide receiver in the slot.
I know that we haven't seen Hollywood Brown in a Cardinals jersey. We haven't seen Trey McBride in a Cardinals jersey on the field. But along with these 2 picks, how do you feel the offense has already improved early on through the draft for the Cardinals?
Well, remember last year at that tail end, the last 5-6 games when the offense kind of disappeared, when DeAndre Hopkins was out, and as successful as the offense was when everyone was clicking, you lose someone now within this offense. I think when they went back and looked at last season, trying to figure out, all right, how do we overcome a loss at a skilled position, whether it's wide receiver, tight end, or even running back? Do we have enough pieces to kind of plug in and keep moving forward? You don't want to lose anyone to injury, but certainly there had to have been some discussion about adding depth, not only in the wide receiver room, but certainly at the tight end spot, to make sure that throughout the entire regular season and hopefully into the postseason, that this offense is able to maintain that steady straight ahead as opposed to the roller coaster we saw last year.
Something else to keep in mind, Brown was the #1 receiver with the Baltimore Ravens. He even mentioned that in his press conference, that he a lot of times out on the field was getting all of that coverage. While that's still likely to go towards DeAndre Hopkins with the Cardinals, so he was saying he's excited now to get those targets and play with D-Hop because teams are still going to want to focus on Hopkins. That's going to allow a lot of opportunities for Brown.
And you spread the field with these wide receivers, which allows a tight end to come underneath. We heard Zach Ertz talk a lot about last season how much room he had to run or move around because of what was going on within that offense, and all the focus and attention focused on whether it was DeAndre Hopkins or A.J. Green on the other side. So if you're McBride, you're probably liking the fit because you're going to have the football thrown your way several times.
Tight end Trey McBride, the Cardinals' second pick, well, technically their first pick of the draft, round 2, pick 55 out of Colorado State. Let's take a look at some of the recent day 2 picks, rounds 2 and 3, that the Cardinals have made because they've panned out pretty well the last couple of years. We've got wide receiver Rondale Moore, cornerback Byron Murphy, defensive lineman Zach Allen, safety Buda Baker, and outside linebacker Marcus Golden. Seeing how productive these players, these starters have been, Craig, how much confidence does that give you in the evaluation of tight end Trey McBride, who the Cardinals just drafted?
Well, it's an opportunity for McBride and anyone that hears their name called in the second round or third round. It's an opportunity. Now, what do you do with that opportunity? How successful can you become? Teams will give you the tools to be successful. Now it's on these players, but as you've seen, especially most recently, Byron Murphy, Zach Allen, I'll throw in Jalen Thompson as well, a young player, a late pick, supplemental draft pick, but certainly have grown and now part of that core on the defensive side of the ball. But now here you have McBride to pair with Kyler Murray and also Marquise Brown, young players to build around not only for the entire team.
The Cardinals received an additional third-round pick, number 100 overall from the Ravens with that trade. How invaluable is that third-round pick for the Cardinals, especially since they don't have any in the 4th or 5th at the moment?
I like that. It was kind of a subtle move and maybe got lost in the shuffle because we were all so excited about the acquisition of Brown. But to get that second, third-round pick, so now 2 selections coming up at 87 and 100. I mentioned defense in the second round. Well, I would expect, maybe fingers crossed, that defense is addressed in round 3. This team desperately needs an edge rusher right now, and you want to be true to your board, but there is some need that comes with these picks as well. But so far it's been I'm sure Kyler Murray is smiling wherever he might be.
Have the last 24 hours not taught you to expect the unexpected, Craig?
True. So maybe we'll go with a running back at pick number 87. Just more weapons, more receivers, more skilled position players for this offense. Hey, you can't be beat if you score more points than your opponent.
I got a chance to talk with the skill player who will probably score some points for the Arizona Cardinals, the newest wide receiver, Hollywood Brown, in an exclusive one-on-one interview with him as he arrived to the facility Friday morning. Let's take a listen.
It's been crazy. I mean, just thinking it could happen and then finally happening, to the owner coming, picking me up, to we had a draft fest and I'm in front of, the Cardinals. So it's been crazy, but, it's been a blessing.
You had expressed a desire to be traded. How did you find out it was official that you were coming to Arizona?
Eric DaCosta, the general manager at the Ravens, reached out to me. He let me know what was going on and to keep it quiet. And then, you know, Steve reached out to me, and we just, from there, it was just trying to keep it quiet from there and not telling anyone. But I was, you know, relieved and, you know, happy to hear.
How hard was it to not tell Kyler?
It was very hard. He got a way of trying to get it out. Like, you heard anything, or like, what's going on? But, you know, it was pretty cool.
So what was your initial reaction when you got the call from Steve Keim?
It was like I was drafted all over again. I mean, it was exciting. You know, I thanked them, thanked the whole organization, you know, for coming to get me, and, you know, I'm gonna make it worth their while.
This receiving core, DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, Rondale Moore, Zach Ertz, what are you bringing to an already stellar receiving core here?
I'm bringing a lot of energy, a lot of juice, and I feel like we all gonna feed off each other. I'm excited, you know, to work with these guys, and I feel like we all gonna complement each other, you know, very well.
Cliff Kingsbury joked he didn't really need to watch film because he saw the film in person in college when he was coaching against you.
Yeah.
What are your expectations on how you're going to fit into this offense, playing for an offensive-minded head coach who's also the play caller?
I'm very excited. He recruited me coming out, so I know all about, you know, how he do things. And, you know, with Lincoln Riley, they all close. So I'm excited to work with them and looking forward to it.
You said Kyler tried to get the news out. What was the conversation between the two of you when you were able to tell him I'm your teammate again?
He was just happy, you know, he couldn't stop smiling. He was just like, yo, go handle your business, like, call me later. But, you know, he's been excited. We've been talking about this for a while, and to finally make it happen, and, you know, it's reality now, it's surreal.
You were college teammates. You've been training with him in Dallas in the offseason, so you already have that chemistry. How much of a leg up does that give you as the new receiver on this team to already have that chemistry with your new quarterback?
Pretty good. I mean, he's been showing me the signals, getting me, you know, caught up as much as he could, and just knowing, you know, how he thinks is pretty good, you know, going into a new situation.
Just the way the recent Day 2 draft picks have panned out well for the Arizona Cardinals, so have their recent trades, which makes me feel pretty good about this one here from Marquis Brown. Let's take a look at some of those recent trades the last 2 years General Manager Steve Keim has pulled off and how they've panned out pretty nicely for the Arizona Cardinals. First, we have, of course, Marquis Brown coming from the first round of the draft Thursday night. Tight end Zach Ertz, center Rodney Hudson, and wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. Not bad if you're looking at those recent acquisitions in the last 2 years.
You're looking at 4 starters all on the offensive end right there, and your anchor in the middle of the offense. So sometimes, there are several ways to build a team. Through the draft, free agency, or in acquisitions. And what we've seen over several years now, you can even add in Chandler Jones and Carson Palmer to those lists of trades, and significant trades, because all have had success short term right now for a lot of those players, but the long-term success of a Carson Palmer and Chandler Jones. But certainly that's another way to build and upgrade your roster, is using that phone to pick up and say, hey, we're interested in X player, let's swing a deal.
And Keim has picked up the phone and made a draft day trade in 8 of the 10 drafts he has spearheaded as the general manager for the Arizona Cardinals. As we start to look ahead, the Cardinals have 2 picks in round 3 coming up later tonight in the draft. Let's take a look at the needs they still have on their board. They have addressed wide receiver with the trade for Hollywood Brown, and they've now addressed tight ends, which wasn't even on our original list. So when you look at the top needs, edge rusher, that was something head coach Cliff Kingsbury specifically called out when we asked him on this show last night. Cornerback, interior defensive line, and offensive line. Which position stands out to you?
Oh, and I mentioned it earlier, Dani. There's no question. It's an edge rusher. You have Marquis Golden, and then a big question mark as far as who is going to rush the quarterback. Now, heading into this draft, NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah mentioned that he saw great depth at edge rusher, whether that's an outside linebacker or a defensive end that maybe can stand up and rush the quarterback. He mentioned 20 deep. So it is heavy at that pass rush spot. But going back to Coach Cliff Kingsbury, even at the scouting combine in Indianapolis, he mentioned that they want to get younger at that position. How do you get younger? Well, you do it through the draft. So I would expect, but you don't want to reach, but you certainly would like to see that position addressed here on day 2. And when you're talking about day 2, that's someone that you hope that can come in and contribute right away. Maybe not necessarily a starter, but certainly if it's an edge rusher, someone that can be a part of that rotation and is getting significant snaps early in the season.
Edge rusher is a glaring hole after Pro Bowler Chandler Jones left in free agency and joined the Raiders. That is definitely the short-term need. When you look at the long-term need, my eyes go to the offensive line. 4 of your 5 starters are entering a contract year. And in 2021 last season, it took until week 18 for all 5 starters to start a game with quarterback Kyler Murray due to injuries and all the adversity that offensive line was facing, also with COVID. So how do you address the short-term need of needing an edge rusher, but the long-term need of an offensive line?
It wouldn't surprise me if offensive line, whether that's a tackle or on the interior, probably looking more for an interior, but with an offensive line, you just talked about it. The health of that offensive line and making sure you have 5 guys, not 5 individuals, but 5 guys that come together that work in cohesion, and the ability to build that chemistry. It was very difficult to do that last season. So you want to be able to have some depth, 2 deep, 3 deep at certain positions. Would not surprise me at all, based off the fact that looking past this season, Rodney Hudson is the only one under contract past 2022. So yeah, I would think offensive line would be up there. And I would have even add defensive line as well, especially when you look at the numbers as far as how this team handled the running attack of opposing teams last season. Defensive tackle, is there a run stuffer in there that can help a Rashard Lawrence or a Leki Fotu? Again, part of that rotation on the defensive line.
That run defense was the most inconsistent on the defense throughout the first half of the season, absolutely. You touched on the offensive line and needing depth. But I also want to bring up versatility. Offensive line coach Sean Kugler really likes versatility in his offensive linemen. And so the Cardinals are also in a situation where at the moment they don't have a backup center. That was right guard Max Garcia, who signed with the Giants in free agency. That is a bit of an issue as well to think about. You have no backup center to Rodney Hudson at the moment.
If you want to include Sean Harlow in that, who did get a handful of snaps, but you're right, there is no one that consistently played that center position that on the National Football League level. So in case of emergency, sure, you can always find someone, but that's not a position that you really want inexperience at. If you have to, great, but that's what made Rodney Hudson so good. But when you lose him for the handful of games that he was out, then all of a sudden it becomes a scramble. Max Garcia filled in well. You don't have him. He signed with the New York Giants. So yeah, you need to figure out, you hope nothing happens to Hudson, but if he does, what do you do?
Cardinals have 2 picks left tonight, 87 and 100 overall. If all the chips were to fall in the right spot, what 2 positions? I see
what you did this there.
Thank you. Very subtle. Which 2 positions would you like to address with those 2?
All right, if we're going to play general manager here and I'm in charge, and if I'm just, forget the board, just position, yeah, it's edge rusher. And it wouldn't even surprise me based off the fact that you got 87 and 100, and we want to get younger at that position. How about 2 edge rushers, whether that's an outside linebacker or a defensive end, someone to affect the quarterback, get into the backfield, and make things a little bit more difficult.
Getting pretty fancy, 2 edge rushers.
I'm the general manager for what, a total of what, 5 minutes, 2 minutes?
That's pushing it. Well, Bird City, we will have another Cardinals Draft Central for you just before the Cardinals go on the clock with pick 100. So by that point, we will be able to talk about who they took at pick 87 and get ready for that 100th overall pick, the 3rd for the Cardinals in this draft. So stay right here with us. Continue to stream it as you watch the draft on NFL Network. For Craig Grialou, I'm Dani Sureck. We will see you right here just a few moments.